I still remember the sound of that knock. Not loud, not urgent, just confident, like the person on the other side believed the door would open for them, no matter what they'd done. I was standing in my kitchen, rinsing a coffee mug, when I heard it. My hands froze. For a strange second, my chest tightened like it already knew who it was. I walked to the front door and looked through the peephole. And there she was, Samantha Reed, my daughter-in-law, 9 years older, dressed like she was walking into a business meeting, not into the home of the man she betrayed. Her hair was perfect, her lips were calm, and her eyes were empty in a way that scares you more than anger ever could. I opened the door only halfway. "Samantha," I said, tasting the name like it was something bitter. She gave me a small smile, polite and practiced. "Michael, it's been a long time." Behind me, I heard footsteps, little feet running down the hall. A boy's voice calling, "Grandpa, who is it?" My heart did something strange. It jumped, then dropped, because I knew what was about to happen. Samantha looked past my shoulder, like she owned the air in my house, like she had every right to see him. And then she said it. "I'm here for my inheritance." Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I miss my son." Not even, "How is he?" Just money. I felt the blood rush to my face. My fingers tightened around the edge of the door until my knuckles turned white. "Inheritance," I repeated slowly. She tilted her head like I was the one being unreasonable. "Ethan's father passed recently. There are assets involved. I'm his legal wife. Ex-wife." I snapped before she could finish. Her smile didn't break. That scared me, too. From a hallway, my grandson appeared. 9 years old now, tall for his age, brown hair like his father, eyes like the Carter men. He stopped when he saw Samantha. He didn't recognize her. Of course he didn't. How could he? The last time he saw her, he was still in diapers, still trying to form words, still reaching for her face when she kissed him goodnight. And then she vanished, just gone. Samantha crouched slightly, softening her voice like she was reading from a script. "Hi, sweetheart." My grandson looked up at me, confused. "Grandpa, who is she?" The room went silent. My throat tightened. I couldn't breathe right. I wanted protected from the truth, but the truth was already standing on my porch, wearing expensive perfume. Samantha's eyes stayed on him. I saw something in her expression. Not love, calculation. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about money. If she was bold enough to show her face after 9 years, she wasn't here for a small check. She was here to take something, maybe everything. And the scariest part? She still thought she could. So I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. No way I was letting her poison the air inside my home. I looked at her, steady and cold. "You don't get to walk back into my life like nothing happened." She crossed her arms, unfazed. "We can do this the easy way, Michael, or the hard way." I stared at her and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not fear, not sadness, a kind of quiet rage. Because for 9 years I did the hard way. I raised her child. I buried my son. I rebuilt what she broke. And now she wanted to walk in at the end and collect a prize? No, not this time. Not ever. But I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I did something better. I smiled, and I said, "Come back tomorrow. We'll talk." Her eyes narrowed. "Tomorrow?" "Yes," I replied. "Tomorrow." She turned and walked away like she'd already won. But as I watched her leave, I whispered to myself, "You have no idea what you just started." And that night, after my grandson went to sleep, I opened an old drawer in my desk. Inside was a thick folder. Receipts, documents, court letters, photos. 9 years of proof. 9 years of pain. 9 years of patience. I ran my fingers over the folder and exhaled slowly. If Samantha wanted the hard way, I was finally ready to give it to her. 9 years earlier, Samantha didn't vanish with drama. No shouting. No final argument in the driveway. Just a quiet disappearance that felt like a bad dream. It was a Sunday night. I remember because Ethan, my son, had called me after dinner, sounding exhausted. "Dad," he said, "I don't know what I'm doing anymore." Ethan wasn't the kind of man who complained. He worked hard, he loved harder, and he trusted the wrong people because he believed everyone had a heart like his. He and Samantha had been married 2 years. Their baby boy, Noah, was only 10 months old. I asked him what was wrong. He hesitated, then said, "Sam's been distant. She says she feels trapped. She keeps talking about starting over." I sat quietly, gripping my phone. Did she say what she wants? He laughed once, but there was no humor in it. Freedom? I didn't understand at first. People say things when they're stressed. But 2 nights later, Ethan showed up at my door with Noah in his arms and a look in his eyes that I'll never forget. It was the look of a man who realized his life was built on sand. "Dad," he whispered, "she's gone." I stepped aside and let him in. Noah was crying, red-faced, reaching for a bottle. Ethan looked like he hadn't slept. I came home from work, and the house was empty. Her clothes, her makeup, half of it was gone. The baby's crib was still there like a joke. He swallowed hard. She left a note. I took the paper from his shaking hand. 3 lines. "I can't do this anymore. Don't look for me. You'll be fine without me." That was it. No apology. No explanation. No mention of her child. I read it again, hoping my eyes were wrong. Ethan collapsed on my couch. What kind of mother does that? I didn't know what to say. I wanted to curse her name. I wanted to drive across town and tear down every door until I found her. But Ethan looked at Noah and said something that changed the air in the room. "I can't fall apart. He needs me." And I realized then my son was about to carry 2 heartbreaks at once. Over the next few weeks, we tried everything. Ethan filed a missing person report. He called her friends. He drove to her mother's house. Her mother, Linda, opened the door with tired eyes and said, "She doesn't live here. Do you know where she is?" Ethan asked. Linda's face hardened. "You men always act like women owe you something." Ethan stared at her, stunned. She left her baby. Linda shrugged like it was inconvenient. Maybe she had to. That was the first time I felt the anger turn into something sharper. Not just toward Samantha. Toward anyone who could look at an abandoned child and treat it like a normal choice. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Samantha never called. No birthday cards. "No, I miss him." "No, how is Noah?" Nothing. And if that wasn't enough, the financial mess hit next. Ethan discovered Samantha had drained part of their savings before she left. Not all of it, just enough to hurt. There were credit cards he didn't recognize. Purchases in cities she claimed she'd never been to. It felt like she didn't just leave. It felt like she took everything she could carry and tried to leave the pain behind like trash. One night, Ethan looked at me and whispered, "Dad, what if she never comes back?" I watched my grandson sleeping in a little crib we set up in my guest room, and I said, "Then we raise him together." Ethan nodded, tears in his eyes. But deep down, I knew something else too. A woman who could walk away that clean wasn't done. She was just gone until she needed something again. And I hate that I was right. People think raising a child is hard only because of diapers and sleepless nights. But the real weight is the quiet moments, the questions you don't know how to answer, the birthdays where one chair stays empty, the days your son stares at his child like he's trying to memorize every feature, because he's terrified the world will steal him too. Ethan moved back into my house. Noah grew from a baby into a toddler with laughter that filled the rooms. But Ethan changed. He tried to be strong. He tried to work. He tried to be mother and father all at once. And I watched my son carry a heartbreak that never healed. At first, Ethan told himself Samantha would return. He kept saying, "Maybe she just needs time." Then he stopped saying her name. Then he stopped talking about her at all. It was like he locked the pain in a room inside his chest and swallowed the key. But pain doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It settles in your bones. I remember a night when Noah was 3. He woke up crying, calling for Mama. a word he barely understood. Ethan rushed to him, holding him tight, whispering, "It's okay. Daddy's here." Noah kept crying. "Want Mama?" Ethan looked at me over Noah's head, and I saw his face crumble. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a silent collapse. After Noah fell asleep, Ethan sat at the kitchen table, staring at his hands. "I wasn't enough," he whispered. I slammed my palm down so hard the table shook. "Don't you ever say that." Ethan flinched. I lowered my voice. "Samantha leaving was about her. Not you, not Noah." Ethan swallowed hard. "Then why does it feel like I'm the one being punished?" I had no answer. Because sometimes life punishes the best people, and the worst ones walk away clean. Or at least, it looks that way. As years passed, we built a new rhythm. I took Noah to school. Ethan worked longer hours. We shared dinners, chores, bedtime stories. We became a team. But then the next blow came. Ethan started getting headaches, then dizziness, then exhaustion that didn't match his age. He brushed it off like men often do. "I'm fine, Dad." Until the day he nearly collapsed at work. That's when we got the diagnosis. Not a dramatic one, not the kind you see in movies, just a cruel one, a condition that would slowly limit him, slowly weaken him, slowly steal his strength. I remember Ethan sitting in the doctor's office, staring at the floor. Then he looked up at me with a strange calm and said, "I can't leave Noah." I held his hand like he was a little boy again. "You won't." We fought. We adjusted. We did everything we could. But the truth stayed in the room with us, quiet and heavy. Ethan's time was not guaranteed. And then, when Noah was 6, we lost him. Not with drama. Not with sirens. Ethan went to sleep one night after reading Noah a bedtime story. He kissed Noah's forehead, smiled at him, and whispered, "Be good for Grandpa." And he never woke up. I sat on the edge of my son's bed the next morning, holding his cold hand, unable to accept that a heart could stop like that. Noah stood in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. "Grandpa," he said softly, "why is Daddy not waking up?" My whole body trembled, because now it was just me and the boy Samantha left behind. At the funeral, Samantha wasn't there. Not even a message. Not even flowers. She didn't come to bury the man she once promised to love. That was when my grief turned into something else. A promise. I would not let Noah become a forgotten story in anyone's life. I would raise him with love, so loud it drowned out her silence. And I would protect him from her no matter what. So when Samantha knocked on my door 9 years later, I already knew she wasn't here for Noah. She was here because she smelled something valuable. And she thought I was too tired, too soft, too broken to fight. She didn't understand one thing. Grief doesn't always break you. Sometimes it sharpens you. The next morning, I took Noah to school like normal. I smiled at his teacher. I waved as he ran to his friends. And then, the second I got back in my car, my hands started shaking on the steering wheel. Because now that Samantha was back, the past wasn't just a memory anymore. It was a threat. I drove straight to the bank, pulled out the folder from my briefcase, and sat in the parking lot reading papers I had sworn I'd never need again. But I was wrong. I needed them. The adoption papers Ethan and I had started before he passed. Unfinished because of legal delays. The custody documents that prove Samantha abandoned Noah. The record of child support, $0 every year. The restraining order request Ethan filed once, after Samantha's mother-hinted Sam was watching from a distance. And the most important paper of all, Ethan's will. Ethan hadn't been rich, but he was smart. And he didn't trust Samantha, even if he never spoke her name. He left what he had to Noah. And he left his father, me, as a trustee. Meaning, I control when Noah would receive it, how and why. That alone should have protected us. But inheritance laws can be messy, and people like Samantha love messy. They use it like smoke. They hide inside confusion. So I called the only person I trusted cut through it. My old friend Daniel Brooks, an attorney who never smiled unless he was about to win. He answered on the second ring. "Mike." "It's Samantha," I said. A pause. "She came back?" Yes, for inheritance. Daniel exhaled like he'd been expecting it for years. She's going to try to claim spouse rights or parental rights. Possibly both. My jaw tightened. After 9 years? Mike, Daniel said gently, people don't return for what they love. They return for what they think they can take. We met that afternoon in his office. Daniel looked through every document, his eyes sharp. Then he leaned back and said, "You've got strong ground, but she'll try to twist the story." "How?" I asked. He tapped a pen on the desk. "She'll say she was forced out, that Ethan kept Noah from her, that she tried to come back." "That's a lie," I snapped. Daniel nodded. "That's why we need to be ready. Because lies sound convincing when they're spoken confidently." I stared at the wall, remembering Samantha's calm face at my door. "What do we do?" I asked. Daniel's voice went colder. "We don't just defend. We prepare to expose." And that word, expose, lit something in me, because I didn't want to just keep her away. I wanted her to feel what she made us feel. Powerless, unseen, dismissed. Daniel slid a notepad toward me. "Tell me everything. From the day she left. Every detail. Every person involved. Every financial record. Every witness." So I did. I told him about the note. About Linda defending her. About the drained savings. About Ethan's illness and funeral with an empty chair. And then Daniel asked a question that made my skin crawl. "Did Samantha ever sign divorce papers?" I blinked. "Yes. Ethan finalized it 2 years after she left." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then she can't claim spouse inheritance, but she can still try to claim parental control." My stomach twisted. Control over Noah? Daniel's eyes narrowed. If she can get herself recognized as an active parent again, she can argue for influence over Noah's money. I felt my breath turn shallow. So that was the plan. Not just money. Access. A doorway into Noah's life. Using the law like a crowbar. Daniel leaned forward. "We're going to stop her. And Mike, we're going to do it clean. No threats. No yelling. Just facts." I nodded, but inside I was boiling. Because Samantha didn't just abandon a child. She abandoned the whole family. And now she wanted to rewrite the story like she was a victim. I clenched my fists. She wants the easy way. Daniel gave a thin smile. Then we give her the truth. I left his office with a plan forming like a storm cloud. But as I drove home, one thought kept repeating in my mind. What if she tries to talk to Noah again? That night, I sat beside Noah's bed while he slept. His face was peaceful, innocent. He had no idea his mother was back. He had no idea a stranger with his blood might try to take his future away. I brushed his hair back and whispered, "I won't let her." But deep inside, fear whispered back, what if she already knows how to win? Samantha arrived the next day right on time. She didn't come alone. That was the first red flag. A sleek car stopped at the curb, and out stepped Samantha and a man in a gray suit holding a leather folder. A lawyer. Of course. I opened the door and forced my face to stay calm. "Michael Carter," the lawyer said, offering his hand like we were meeting at a golf club. "I'm Richard Hale. I represent Ms. Reed." I didn't shake his hand. Samantha didn't seem bothered. She walked past me like she owned the place, her heels clicking on my floor. I hated that sound. I led them to the living room. Noah was at school. Thank God. Richard sat, crossed his legs, and opened his folder. Samantha stayed standing, arms folded, staring at my family photos on the wall, like she was counting what belonged to her. Richard cleared his throat. "Mr. Carter, Ms. Reed is here to discuss the estate and financial assets associated with the late Ethan Carter." I stared at him. Ethan's assets belonged to his son. Richard nodded like he expected that answer. "And Ms. Reed is Noah's legal mother." Samantha finally spoke, which means I should be involved. Involved. That word almost made me laugh. I leaned forward. Involved? Where were you when he had nightmares? Where were you when he asked why his mom didn't call? Where were you when Ethan? Samantha cut me off, voice sharp. "Don't." She blinked fast, like she was holding back tears. And for a split second, she looked human. Then she turned to Richard and said softly, "Tell him." Richard slid a paper toward me. It was a petition. She was filing to regain parental rights and request access to Noah's trust. My hands trembled as I read it, and the words on the page made my stomach drop. It claimed Ethan refused Samantha contact. It claimed she feared for her safety. It claimed she attempted reconciliation. All lies, and yet, written in legal language, they sounded clean and believable. Samantha wiped at her, "I like she was hurt." Michael, "You don't know what I went through." I stared at her. 9 years of silence. She looked away, then whispered, "I made mistakes." Mistakes. Like leaving a child with forgetting an appointment. I swallowed my rage and remembered Daniel's words. Facts, not emotion. So I asked calmly, "Where have you been?" Samantha lifted her chin. "Living my life." Richard jumped in. "Mr. Carter, we are willing to resolve this without court. Ms. Reed is requesting a fair portion of the estate and a role in Noah's life moving forward." I looked at Samantha. "You want a portion of your son's money." She frowned. "It's not like that." I gestured to the petition. "Then why does this document mention finances more than your child?" Her jaw tightened. For the first time, I saw her mask slip, just a little. Then she forced her voice soft again. "Noah deserves to know his mother." I almost believed her until she added, "And I deserve what's mine." There it was. The truth. Richard leaned forward. "Mr. Carter, if you refuse, we will proceed. And you may find yourself in a very expensive legal battle." I nodded slowly. In my head, I saw Ethan's tired eyes, his hands shaking as he held Noah, his last smile. I turned back to Samantha and said, "You can proceed." Richard blinked. "Excuse me." "You heard me." I said calmly, "Proceed." Samantha's eyes widened. "Michael, don't be stubborn." I stood. "Get out." Richard's face hardened. "You're making a mistake." I opened the front door. "No, I'm correcting one." They left, but Samantha paused at the doorway, and she smiled again, cold and confident. "You think you can keep him from me?" she whispered. I stepped closer. "You kept yourself from him." She leaned in, voice low. "See you in court." When the door closed, my knees felt weak. Not because I was scared of court, but because I realized Samantha wasn't just going to fight. She was going to perform. And if she performed well enough, the wrong people might believe her. So I called Daniel immediately. And when he picked up, I said only one thing. "She's lying on paper." Daniel replied, calm as ice. "Good. Lies leave fingerprints." And that's when the real plan began. Revenge doesn't always look like shouting or breaking things. Sometimes revenge is quiet. Sometimes it's a calm man in a plain office, organizing truth into a weapon. Daniel moved fast. He filed a response to Samantha's petition, including proof of abandonment, Ethan's divorce documents, and records showing Samantha had not attempted contact for nearly a decade. But Daniel didn't stop there. He hired a private investigator. I didn't love the idea, but Daniel told me, "Mike, we need to know who she is now, not who she was." So we learned. Samantha hadn't been living a tragic life like she hinted. She'd been living well. Different cities, different men, different jobs she quit after a few months. And most importantly, debt. A lot of it. Credit cards, late payments, loans, and then something worse. She'd recently been named in a civil complaint by a former business partner for misuse of funds. Not a conviction, not a crime proven in court, but a pattern, a trail. The investigator brought us something else too. Samantha had been searching Ethan's name online for years. Not for Noah, not for custody, not for reconciliation, for information, for money. I stared at the report, my stomach turning. She was watching us from a distance, waiting for the right moment to strike. Daniel looked at me. "We can use this." "How?" I asked. He tapped the page with her debt. "Motive. She's not here for motherhood. She's here because she's desperate." I leaned back, dizzy. What if the judge doesn't care? Daniel's eyes sharpened. Then we make them care. He built the case like a story, because court is just storytelling with rules. We gathered witnesses, Noah's teachers, who could speak to how stable his life was, neighbors who remembered Ethan raising him alone, friends who knew Samantha never reached out, even the daycare worker from years ago who remembered Ethan crying in the parking lot after trying to call Samantha again. Then Daniel asked me for something that felt brutal. Do you still have the note? I nodded. We scanned it, preserved it, documented it. 3 lines that showed the truth. She didn't want her child. She didn't want the responsibility. She wanted out. Daniel also found something that made my stomach drop even harder. When Ethan died, Samantha's mother, Linda, had contacted a distant cousin to ask about estate matters. So it wasn't just Samantha. This wasn't a sudden emotional return. It was a planned move built over time. A hunt, and Noah was the doorway. Then came the hardest part. Daniel said, "Mike, we need to talk to Noah." My heart sank. He doesn't even remember her. But she's going to show up, Daniel warned. And if he hears it from her first, she'll shape his feelings before we can. So that night after dinner, I sat Noah down on the couch. He looked at me with those big eyes and asked, "Am I in trouble?" "No," I said quickly. "Never." He relaxed slightly. I took a deep breath. "Noah, a woman came to our house yesterday." He frowned. "A woman?" I nodded. "Her name is Samantha. She is your birth mother." The air changed. Noah's face went still. He blinked slowly. "My mom." I swallowed. "Yes." He stared at the floor. Quiet. Too quiet. Then he whispered, "Why didn't she want me?" That question hit me like a punch. I pulled him close. "This is not your fault. Not even a little." He sniffed. "Then why is she back now?" I hesitated. And Noah looked up and said something that broke my heart. "Is it because Daddy's gone?" I held him tighter, my voice shaking. "She's back because she thinks she can get something." Noah's eyes filled with tears. "Is she going to take me?" I stared at his face and felt my anger rise like fire. "No, I promised. No one is taking you." But inside, fear whispered again. Because promises are easy. Courtrooms are harder. And Samantha was coming with a performance. So Daniel gave me one final instruction before the hearing. Let her talk. Let her act. And when she's done, he smiled, we show the truth. The day of the hearing, Samantha arrived dressed like an angel. Soft colors, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back like she was humble. She even carried tissues in her hand like she planned when cry. When she saw me, she didn't glare. She smiled sadly, like I was the cruel one keeping a mother from her child. That's when I realized how dangerous she was. Because anger is easy to spot, but a fake victim, that can fool people. The judge entered. Everyone stood. My palms were sweating, but Daniel stayed calm, whispering, "Let her go first." Samantha's lawyer spoke about a mother's regret and a desire to reunite. Then Samantha took the stand. She told the court she was young and scared. She said Ethan controlled her. She said she tried to come back, but was shut out. She even cried when she said Noah's name, like it hurt her to say it. I watched the judge's face. Neutral, careful. Then Samantha looked directly at me and said softly, "Michael never liked me. He poisoned Ethan against me." I almost stood up. Daniel touched my arm, steadying me. Then it was our turn. Daniel didn't start with anger. He started with a question. "Ms. Reed," he said politely, "you claim you tried to contact your son." Samantha sniffed. "Yes." Daniel nodded. "How many times?" She blinked. "Many." Daniel smiled slightly. "Great. Then you'll have records. Calls, messages, emails, letters." Samantha hesitated. I changed phones." Daniel nodded again, like he expected that excuse. "In 9 years, you never once sent a letter?" Samantha's face tightened. I didn't know where they lived. Daniel lifted a folder. "You filed taxes twice during those years. Your returns list the address of Ethan Carter's home. Silence. Samantha's eyes flicked to her lawyer. Daniel continued calmly. You also claim you feared for your safety. Yet you drained the shared savings account the week you left. You used that money in 3 separate cities within 10 days. Do you deny that? Samantha's voice shook. I needed to survive. Daniel nodded. Understood. But you did not send any money for your child. Not $1. Not once. Samantha swallowed. I couldn't. Daniel's voice stayed gentle but sharp. But you could afford trips, hotels, new purchases. We have records. Her lawyer stood. Objection. The judge raised a hand. Overruled. Continue. My heart pounded. Daniel took 1 step closer. Ms. Reed, I'm going to show you something. Do you recognize this? He held up the note. Samantha's face went pale. Daniel read aloud. Not dramatically. Just plainly. I can't do this anymore. Don't look for me. You'll be fine without me. He looked up. Is that your handwriting? Samantha's lips trembled. Yes. Daniel nodded. In that note, you did not ask about your child. You did not request visitation. You did not mention custody. You simply left. Samantha's tears fell faster now, but her face looked trapped. Daniel turned to the judge. Your Honor, we also have evidence that Ms. Reed searched the late Mr. Carter's name online repeatedly over the past few years, including searches related to state and inheritance. We have documented debt records showing financial pressure as a likely motive for the sudden return. Samantha stood up, voice rising. That's not fair. I'm his mother. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He just asked one final question. If you came back for your son, why did you tell Mr. Carter at the front door, and I quote, I'm here for my inheritance? The courtroom went still. Samantha froze. Her lawyer looked at her, stunned. The judge's eyes sharpened. Samantha opened her mouth, but no words came out, because she didn't expect one thing, that I had cameras on my porch, audio included. Daniel played the clip. Samantha's voice filled the room. I'm here for my inheritance. Not my son. Not my family. Inheritance. When the audio stopped, the silence was so heavy it felt like the air was made of stone. The judge leaned forward. Ms. Reed, do you understand the seriousness of what you've done? Samantha looked around like the room was turning against her, because it was. And for the first time in 9 years, she was the one who couldn't run. The judge didn't shout. He didn't insult her. He did something far more painful to someone like Samantha. He saw through her. Calmly, clearly, he ruled that Samantha's request for control over Noah's trust was denied. He ruled that her parental rights could not be restored without proof of consistent involvement and genuine effort, something she had failed to show for nearly a decade. He also granted a protective order limiting her contact until a structured process could be evaluated, supervised, and proven safe for Noah. In simple words, she didn't get the money. She didn't get to walk in and act like a mother. And she didn't get to disturb the life we built. When the hearing ended, Samantha stormed out of the courtroom, no longer pretending. As she passed me, she hissed, You stole my life. I looked at her and felt something surprising. Not hatred. Pity, because she truly believed she was a victim of her own choices. I said quietly, No, Samantha, you threw it away. Her eyes flashed. You think you won? I glanced at Daniel, then back to her. Noah won, and that made her face twist in anger, because in her mind, Noah wasn't a person. He was a key, a tool, a path to money. She turned and walked out like the world owed her another chance. But the world doesn't give second chances to people who only return when it benefits them. When I picked Noah up from school that day, he was nervous. He asked, Did she win? I parked the car, turned to him, and smiled softly. No. He let out a breath like he'd been holding it for years. So she can't take me? I shook my head. No one is taking you. Noah stared out the window for a moment, then whispered, Am I bad because she left? My throat tightened. I reached over and placed my hand on his shoulder. Listen to me. Noah, some people run from responsibility. Some people run from love because they don't know how to hold it. He blinked back tears. I continued, but that doesn't say anything about you. It says everything about them. That night, I showed Noah a photo of Ethan, his dad holding him as a baby, smiling like life was simple. Noah traced the picture with his finger. Daddy loved me. Yes, I said, more than anything. He nodded slowly. And you love me. I smiled. Always. In the weeks that followed, I did something important. I updated every legal document. I secured Noah's trust even tighter. I made sure that when he turned 18, the money would go only to him. No loopholes, no back doors, no mother's access. I also wrote Noah a letter he wouldn't open until he was older. It said, if someone ever returns to your life only when you have something they want, remember this. Love doesn't disappear for 9 years and come back with paperwork. And as for Samantha, she tried once more. She sent a message to her lawyer about reconsideration. Daniel replied with one sentence. Prove love with actions, not demands. We never heard from her again after that. Sometimes people don't change. They just move on to easier targets. But Noah wasn't a target. He was a boy with a future. And he had something stronger than a mother who abandoned him. He had a family that stayed. So if there's a lesson in all of this, it's this. Betrayal can steal years from you. It can leave scars you never asked for. But if you stand firm, if you protect what matters, and if you let truth speak louder than emotion, justice has a way of finding the right people. Samantha came back for an inheritance. But what she found instead was something she never expected. A man who stopped begging and started protecting. A child who wasn't weak, but loved. And a truth so solid, it left her speechless. Because in the end, the real inheritance wasn't money. It was loyalty. It was love. It was the life we built without her. And she couldn't take that away. Not after 9 years. Not ever.